the trends and future prospects of agriculture. This is not a theoretical presentation. This is presentation of data from today. We will go around the world, and the next day we will go around Sri Lanka, right? So we will discuss what are the trends in agriculture. What in the first slide set we will discuss what are the trends, what has happened from let's say 2000 to 2020, what has happened in the agriculture sector in the world, right? In the world, and what are the problems that agriculture sector encounters, and in terms of the world, and sometimes in some of the cases we will compare Sri Lanka with that, and in most cases we discuss what is happening around the world. And then in the second slide set, we will discuss what is the future holds for agriculture, what are the new developments in the agriculture sector. We will specifically discuss what is known as Agriculture 4. Some of you may already have heard about this terminology, Agriculture 4.0, and that is how the world is going to develop into the future of agriculture, right? So we will, in this lecture, what you see is you will have to sit back and enjoy and see what is happening. We will go through a series of pictures, right? So pictures means a series of graphics or graphs. And from graphs, we see what has happened over the past 20 years. And then what is the future holds for this sector. And you will see you are in a very important sector in the world. And if you look at in terms of employment, you will see in our presentation today, you will see that in terms of employment, agriculture is the second largest employer in the world, right? So you can find employment, find jobs, or do new things in this area, because it's a very, very important area in the world today. So let's go around the world through pictures in this slide set. Okay, so this is agriculture around the world. We will start by looking at world outlook, right? World outlook about agriculture. Now, as I said, agriculture is an important sector for the global economy. Global economy means the whole world's economy, right? So it's the second largest employer, and global value added generated by agriculture, forestry, and fishing. So usually we take these three together, right? Agriculture, forestry, and fishing. Although you learn about agriculture in this specific course without any fishing and all that, but usually the data are presented in these three together. Even if you want to look at what has happened to Sri Lanka in terms of agriculture or any other sector, you go to the Central Bank annual report, right? In the Central Bank annual report, there are a lot of information about how country has developed over the years, right? How country has developed over the years. Give me 1 minute. Okay, how country has developed over the years. So, global value added generated by agriculture, forestry and fishing grew by 73% in real terms between 2000 to 2019, right? 73%. So agriculture sector value added meaning the additional value generated by production and sale of agriculture, forestry and fishing items, that has increased by 73% in 2000 from 2000 to 2019 in real terms, right? I don't know whether you have heard about the real term. Api sinhalin kiyana moorthage kiyala. That is, you convert the rupee values into a certain year, right? So you don't need that much, but you just I'm trying to show you that agriculture sector has grown fast in the past 20 years. So the value added by agriculture sector is to 3.5 trillion US dollars in 2019 in the world, right? 3.5 trillion. So you might think, okay, computer industry, that industry, this industry is big, but agriculture sector is bigger. So $3.5 trillion in 2019, and the total production of primary crops, right? Primary crops meaning without any processing, just production of, let's say, paddy, just production of maize. So total production of primary crops increased by 53% between 2000 to 2019. In the past 20 years, the agricultural production, total production increased by 53%. So we will see in later slides that this is not enough, right? This is not enough. There is huge demand coming up for agriculture sector. So therefore, this 9.4 billion tons in 2019 has to be tripled even in the years to come in order to feed the world. So this is a growing industry. Half of global primary crop production is now, although we say that okay, agriculture production increased by 53%, half of this total primary crops, right? Half of this, මේකෙන් භාගයක්ම හැදලා තියෙන්නේ crops 4කින්. Sorry, crops 4කින්, yes, crops 4කින්, 4 crops. Global, half of the global primary crop production is made up of just 4 crops: sugarcane, maize, wheat, rice. So we always talk about tea, rubber and coconut. That is for Sri Lanka, right? So world case, major portion, 50% of total agriculture production comes from sugarcane, maize, wheat and rice, right? So those are the main crops that the world is producing. So you can see many countries all over the world consume these 4 items, right? These 4 items. So that is the trend that has happened in the world. So let's look at contribution of agriculture, forestry and fishing to the world economy, right? Contribution of these 3 things into the world economy. So I download these figures from FAO, right? Food and Agricultural Organization. And if you search in the internet, if you type in the internet FAO stat, right? FAO stat, you will get these figures. So you can get data and develop your own figures. I have downloaded their own figures, what they have shared. But if you want anything else, if you want to see what Sri Lanka looks like, you can download data from that and draw these figures, right? So for this part of the lecture, I am talking about the whole world and their descriptions are used here. So in the y-axis here, this axis, we have this is x-axis, this is y-axis. In the y-axis, we have US dollars trillion at 2015 prices. That is what I said, real prices, right? So price impact is not there. So we are talking about how dollar value has increased in agriculture sector in various regions in the world. So you can see that in year 2000, right? In year 2000, Asia, which is this color, right? Asia, look at the color, and in this picture, the color, right? Asia in 2015, out of the total value added by agriculture sector, Asia represented 60%, right? Asia was 60%. Americas were producing 16%, Africa 8%, and Europe 14%, and Oceania very small percentage. It's not even this one, right? Not even percentage is not even given. But you can see everywhere it has increased, right? It has increased over time. But the contribution from various regions, right? Various regions. Asian contribution has increased from 60 to 64%. But the America's contribution has, although it has increased in value, its contribution out of the total has declined from 16 to 14%. And this one, African contribution has increased from 8 to 12%. And Europe's contribution has declined from 14 to 10%. Now you can see that we are all trying to go into jobs for agriculture in various countries, and you see that our agriculture sector's contribution to the world economy has changed over the years, where you can see where the trend is, right? So that is what we have to see. So share of agriculture, forestry and fishing value added in total GDP. GDP means gross domestic product, right? Gross domestic product. රටක ආදායම මයින්නේ මෙහෙමයි. දල ජාතික නිෂ්පාදිතය, right? Gross domestic product. So this graph tells you share of agriculture, forestry and fishing value added in terms of total GDP by region. So this says, try to understand what is taught here. This says that out of the total GDP, if your income is 100, if the country's income is 100, how much is obtained by agriculture, right? So in Africa, so let's see these colors. Let's see Asia. Asia is this color, right? Hopefully it is this color, right? That color. So Asia, the share of agriculture, forestry and fishing in the total GDP, it's coming down. You can see that, right? So this is not a worry actually, right? This is not a worry actually. In many places, although Africa is increasing, right? African region, it's slightly increasing. This doesn't change America. This one, this Oceania, do you know what Oceania is? Oceania is, this is the Oceania, right? So let me show you Oceania. Oceania is, can you see my website? මං මේ අරිණිය පේනවද?
Yes, sir.
Right. So this is Oceania, right? Somewhere here, maybe in the river. So this is China, this is Australia, this part, Malaysia, Indonesia, and all that. This part is Oceania, right? So these countries, Hawaii, Johnston, Palau, these small countries getting together is called Oceania. These are countries in the Pacific Ocean, right? So that if you didn't know what Oceania is, that is Oceania, right? So these countries, their contribution from agriculture also come down. So this says that if the country's income is 100, out of this 100, what is agriculture's contribution, right? What is agriculture's contribution? For example, if it is 10, so let's say out of 100, this is 10. So this is 10%, right? 10% of national income in Asia comes from agriculture, right? Now, that is in 2000. But in 2019, if you look at Asia, earlier in 2000, 10% of income in a country comes from in Asia comes from agriculture. But when you come to 2019, it's around 7%. Now, although this has come down, that doesn't mean agriculture's contribution has come down, right? That doesn't mean agriculture has less importance in the world. Now, all over the world, what is happening is the services sector's contribution to the national income or the GDP is growing faster than any other sector. right? So therefore, that is why agriculture sector's contribution is coming down. This is actually a good indicator. The contribution from agriculture is coming down, meaning it is a good indicator for the world, meaning that Asian region is developing, right? Asian region is developing. We call them stylized factors. A stylized factor of development is the contribution to the GDP or the national income comes down over time, right? So that is what is happening in the Asian region. But you can see in the African region, it's not doing that. They are still poor, right? They are still poor. These countries are still poor. So this is about contribution of agriculture, forestry, and fishing to the world economy in various regions in the world. I have taken regions. Now, this is the contribution from agriculture to the national income, right? National income of these countries in these regions. Now, let's talk about production factors, right? Production factors, how they have changed over time, right? Factors of production. I don't know whether you have, I think you have gone through a course in economics. Now, in economics, we say that there are factors of production that are needed to produce agriculture or any other product, right? So if agriculture is the product, we have main factors of production. We say land, labor, capital, and management, right? Land, labor, capital, and management. Now, land, labor, capital is any man-made things that can be used for production, getting output. Management is the ability of people. We don't consider that here because that data is not here, but labor is there. And we are firstly looking at land and water. These are two important aspects of agricultural production, right? Water and land. So we look at the trends in the world, how these two things have changed in the world in various regions and in terms of various crops. So let's first look at in this picture, we look at world agricultural land by use, right? Agricultural land. Now we are talking about, if you look at all over the world, the agricultural land, what have they been used for, right? What these lands are being used for. If you divide the land use to two main categories first, that is meadows and pastures, that means grassland, right? These are grasses, growing grasses for animal production. So we know that when you have cattle and all other animals, you need grasslands. So although Sri Lanka's animal production is less than crop production, in the world, animal production is a big business, right? So to do that, you need grasses, right? You need grasses. So grasslands are grown. So you can see the permanent grasslands in this color in the world is almost similar from 2000 to 2019. 69% of the total agricultural land has been allocated for grass in 2000, and it's 67, only 2% reduction, almost same, has been allocated for grass in 2019. So you can see that out of the, if you say total land is 100 acres in the world, 67% of that, or 67 acres is used for grass production, and only 33% is used for crop production, right? So whatever the crop, there are lots of crops. All these crops are produced in 33% of the land that the world has, right? Agricultural land that the world has. This is disregarding other land areas like where you have houses and all that. We forget that, but we look at only the agriculture land. Out of the agriculture land, 67% is used for grass cultivation and 33% is used for other agricultural products like sugar, wheat, maize, corn and all that, rice and all that is tea, rubber, coconut, all that is used for 33% of the land, right? So see how when you say agriculture, animal production comes into play. For animal production, you need this area, right? So you see how much is devoted to that. Now, if you take this cropland separately, right, crop area separately and divide it into areas, into regions in the world. So this is croplands by area by region, right? Cropland area by region. This tells you that out of the total, out of the total cropland area in the world, Asia accounts for 38% of the land that is cultivated, right? ලෝකේ වවලා තියෙන crops වවලා තියෙන මම කියන්නේ grass වලට අමතරව crops වවලා තියෙන area එකෙන් 138ක් වවලා තියෙන්නේ කොහෙද? ආසියාවේ. ඒක එහා සමානවම තියෙනවා 2019. Same level is being maintained in the Asia. So Asian region is one of the major regions where crop cultivation happens, right? So we are the ones feeding the world, right? So Asian region has lot of land area allocated for crops. And this is America's 25%. America's, when we say Americas, it's don't think that it is USA, it's the both North and South America, right? American countries together. When you say look at Europe, all European region, it's 20%, and Africa 15%. Oceania is very small percentage, it's not even given here, right? So this is how land is allocated in the world, right? Land is allocated in the world. Why this information is important? When you make business decisions, when you make cultivation decisions, you have to understand where various strengths and weaknesses of various regions in terms of factors of production is needed. So this is world agricultural land by use in the main countries, right? Main producing countries in 2019. If you look at pasture cultivation or the grasslands, there are three main grassland cultivators in the world. China accounts for very large portion, 10%, more than about 12% of total land. Grassland is cultivated in China. Around this much is cultivated in Australia, and this much is cultivated in United States of America, that is USA, right? And this part is all other countries, right? All other countries together, around 70% is being cultivated, right? Now, if you look at the crops, India becomes the largest cropland cultivator, followed by United States and China, right? You might think that, okay, China is a big country, but India is the largest single country, right? Single country that cultivates crops, right? Largest area allocated for crops in India. So if you look at the second figure that we have here, that is cropland area per capita. The meaning of per capita is per person. එක මිනිහෙකුට කියලා, right? එක මිනිහෙකුට කොච්චර ඒරියා එකක් තියෙනවද? කොච්චර හෙක්ටයාර් ගානක් තියෙනවද මේ රටවල්, right? So sorry, මේ රටවල් නේ, මේ regions, right? So we are talking with regions, because if you take country wise, it's very big. There are a lot of countries in the world, so we show here only region wise, right? Region wise information showing 2000 in this color and year 2019 in this color, right? So that is how this graph is shown. So per person, for example, in Africa, you have about 0.29 hectares per capita, right? එක මිනිහෙකුට හෙක්ටයාර් 0.3කට ආසන්න ගාණක් තිබිලා තියෙන 2019 දී ඒක 0.2කට වගේ බහැලා තියෙනවා, right? So you can see one person, the average amount of land available per person it has come down in all the regions, right? Come down in all the regions. Anyway, it's because of population growth, right? Because of population growth, we know that if your parents have 2 acres of land, if you have 4 children in your home, then this 4 acres will be divided by 4 people because of 4 children in the house, right? So therefore, next generation will have only 1 acre, and the next generation will divide it further, right? So therefore, there is a reduction in land available per capita in each region. Now, if you look at this picture, what is striking is Oceania. I showed you where the Oceania, this is the world, right? This is the world situation on average world. But if you look at Oceania countries, maybe you have not even heard about the countries that I have shown in that map, but still they have per person land area is high. Maybe the population is low. Maybe the countries are, although the countries are small, population is low, right? So therefore, per person land availability is high in this country. Now you can see Asia is the lowest, right? Sri Lanka is part of this, right? So we have the lowest per person land area in the world. So if you are now you are in Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, we also understand the Sri Lanka. We will show you the Sri Lankan situation in the next class. But you can understand that in this country, land is a critical factor. Right? Land is a critical factor. Why? Per average farmer, very small amount of land is available. So what can we do as agricultural producers in a country like this? Every day our land area that a farmer has comes down day by day. So, but the population grows day by day, right? Number of people in the house grows. Now your father will have 2 acres and your family have two children, and you are one of them, and then you will get only 1 acre. And when you have a family, you will have 4 children, and this 1 acre has to be used to feed this. Assume feed these 4 children. So then you can see that the problem you can see the problem that is arising because of land available. That is why we look at land. So then what can you do? What you have to do is you have to increase efficiency in production, right? Production efficiency is key factor in these countries, not only in these countries, all over the world, because per person land is declining. Land is going to be a critical factor. So you will have to have other techniques of maybe hydroponics, I don't know, maybe various ways of cultivation, and also increasing production per area. So you can go for vertical farming, whatever the technique that you are going to use. I will show you the trends or the future of agriculture in the next slide, but understand those future techniques arise from the problems that we see here. Right? So that is one thing. Land area is coming down very fast. Now, if you look at water is a critical factor, right? I said water is also a critical factor. Now, area equipped for irrigation by region. So, if land area is possible to be irrigated, right? Possible to be irrigated. That means somehow some water problem, water scarcity in these areas can be somewhat controlled. So, if areas that is good for irrigation, when I say good for irrigation, is possible to be irrigated, equipped for irrigation, means that these areas have water, right? So if you look at in terms of million hectares and in terms of percentages as well, in Asia, this color, Asia, most land out of the total land in the world, 69% of the land that can be irrigated out of the total land in the world that can be irrigated, 69% of that is in Asia, right? So Asia has water. That is the idea, right? Asia so we have the capacity to produce because we face low water scarcity. There are water scarcity in different parts of the world, different parts of Asia, different parts of even Sri Lanka. But on the average, Asia looks better than other regions. America's only 16% of the out of the total world irrigable land. 16% is in Americas, 9% is in 2000 in year 2000, right? 9% in Europe, and 5% in Africa. So 5% in Africa is still there, right? Only 5% of the total land that can be irrigated in the world is in Africa, right? So African region, you understand there is a water scarcity, right? Scarcity කියන්නේ හිගයක් කියලා, right? Water scarcity. Now, the second figure, figure 8, shows share of area equipped for irrigation in agricultural land area by region. Agricultural land area by region. As a percentage, you can see how it has grown over the years, right? How it has grown over the years. This is Asia, so we see that in Asian region, right? In Asian region, it's the Asian region total out of the total land in Asian region. Can Asian region එකේ අක්කර 100ක් තියෙනවා. ASEAN 12ක් irrigate කරන්න පුළුවන්කම තිබ්බා. 2010 දී දැන් 14ක් විතර irrigate කරන්න පුළුවන් අර 100. Right? So that is the idea of that. So it has grown in Asia, but you can see that in other regions the growth is less. Right? Growth is less. So this is water availability for agriculture production. Right? This is water availability for agricultural production. Now, this is the share of water withdrawal, right? So water withdrawal කියන්නේ water එළියට අදිනවා කියන්නේ, right? Following එළියට ගන්නවා කියන්නේ. Share of water withdrawal by agriculture in total withdrawal of countries in the world. This is, however, for 2018. Share of water withdrawal by agriculture in total withdrawal. මෙහෙම හිතන්න මේක තේරුම් ගන්න මෙහෙම. පොළවෙන් අපි වතුර එළියට ගන්නවා නම් පාවිච්චිය සඳහා ඒ පාවිච්චිය සඳහා වතුර ලීටර 100ක් ගන්නවා නම් ඒකෙන් කොච්චරක් ඇග්‍රිකල්චර් වලට පාවිච්චි වුණාද කියන එක තමයි මේකෙන් තියෙන්නේ. Now if you look at Somalia, the top country, when they take 100 liters of water out in 2018, around 99 liters of that is used for water. So used for agriculture, right? Used for agriculture. Only 1% is used for other activities, right? So share of water withdrawal by agriculture out of total withdrawals. So you can see that there are water scarcity level, right? Sri Lanka does not reflect in this picture even, right? Sri Lanka has water. We are a lucky country here. So this color, the countries in this color is this one, and this one. They are in Africa, right? So countries in this color is in Asia. Countries in this color is in Americas, right? So you can see there are even Asian countries where lot of water that is taken out of the ground is used for agricultural production. So you can, but I want you to understand that water is a critical factor. We know that to grow plants, we need water. Water is a critical input or factor of production that needs to be conserved because it's used heavily, right? So these countries who use lot of water to produce agricultural products should look at water use efficiency, right? Should look at water use efficiency, and you, when you do your agriculture, should look at efficiency in water use because it is a cost to production. Your cost of production will rise if you have a problem, have a water scarcity, and also it's a national problem because we have to use water for other activities as well, right? So water is, there's a water cycle. So sometimes water is available, sometimes water is unavailable in whole country. So this is how water is used. Now we have looked at land and water. Land, you can see how it is becoming scarce with the growth of the population. And similarly, you can see water, how it becomes scarce, with the with the increases in agriculture production. දැන් මේකේ බලන්නේ සෝමාලියාවේ 99ක් විතර අදින වතුර වලින් agriculture වලට පාවිච්චි කරනවා. agriculture production එක වැඩි වෙන්න වතුර requirement එක වැඩි වෙනවා ඒ රට. right? so එතකොට වතුර limiting factor එකක් වෙනවා in these countries, right? Next one is labor, right? So let's look at the labor, which is one of the most critical factors in agriculture production, right? So maybe with the development of AI, artificial intelligence, with smart farming and all that, labor requirement can be reduced, but you can see that labor becomes a scarce factor. Scarce scarce means limited. Become a limited factor. Right? Limited factor. So if you look at employment in agriculture, assuming that it is labor, right? All are labor. In year 2000, 77% of the total labor employed in agriculture was in Asia. Now it's in 2020, it's 67%, right? It's 67%. So most of the agricultural labor is found in Asian region, right? Most of the agricultural labor is found in Asian region. Africa, it has grown from 15 to, although it has come down here. In 2000, year 2000, මේ ටික 100 නම් ඒකෙන් 15ක් තිබිලා තියෙන්නේ අප්‍රිකාවේ. දැන් මේ ටික 100 නම් ඒකෙන් 26ක් තියෙන්නේ අප්‍රිකාවේ. right? ඇයි මේකෙන් අඩු වෙලා අප්‍රිකාවේ ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි වෙනවා. right? So that is අප්‍රිකාවේ ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි වෙලා නෙමෙයි මුළු ගානම අඩු වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. right? ඒතර 100න් percentage එක වැඩි වෙලා. So that is how employment in agriculture has changed over the world. And share of agriculture, forestry and fishing employment in the total employment by region, right? Total employment again. So you have, let's say there are 100 people employed in the country. How much is in agriculture? What is the percentage is in agriculture? Now, if you look at African region, about 60% of total employment in the country is in the agriculture sector. Now, in 2020, about 50% of total employment is in the agriculture sector. If you look at Asia, about in 2000, 50% of labor out of total labor is in agriculture sector. But it has declined to 30% by 2020. So what you can see, and you feel this in your day-to-day life, in your homes, in your way, if you are doing something. Now, if you think of if you have a land area, let's say you have some plot of agricultural land, if you want to hire labor to clear the land, you find it very difficult to hire labor now. Why? Because labor is less available. People have moved into other jobs, right? People have moved into other jobs, agriculture sector. People don't come into work in the agriculture sector, right? So this is a worldwide phenomenon, worldwide issue. That is why we need machinery. And you have to, if you are investing in agriculture into the future, you have to think of how to most efficiently use labor. ඉන්න ප්‍රමාණය හොඳම කාර්යක්ෂමතාවයෙන් පාවිච්චි කරන එක සහ labor ඉතා අඩුවෙන් පාවිච්චි කරන ක්‍රමස් විදි සොයාගන්න. right? So you have to look at ways and means of reducing labor use in your agricultural production. Otherwise, you will find it difficult, because very difficult to find labor that is in the world. But still, agriculture remains the second largest source of employment worldwide after the services sector, right? After the services sector, worldwide still, agriculture is the second largest employment provider, right? Employment provider around the world. Now, let's think about capital and investment, right? So, like I said, we can have land, labor, and capital and management. Capital, and also we can put them together, investments in agriculture. If you define what is capital, the capital in the agriculture sector includes machinery, equipment, and tools, as well as farm buildings, and is essential in the production of all agricultural inputs. Again, agriculture production of all agricultural outputs, right? Outputs. So if you have output to produce, and the amount, the machinery, the equipment, the tools, let's say even a memory or a tractor, whatever that is used to produce agricultural output is called capital, right? So any buildings that is used for in the production of agriculture comes in as capital in the agriculture sector, right? So it is a very, very important, again, a very, very important input into production. Now we see that tractors are heavily used, various kinds of machineries are heavily used in agriculture production. අර භූතයා කියන්නේ එක එකකට දැන් භූතයා කියලා සුනාමි කිය අර එකක දාන්නේ දැන් මිනිස්සු වැඩි ෆීල්ස් වලට machine, right? So these are machinery. So this is capital investments in the agriculture sector, right? So let's see how this capital investment have changed over time, right? What is their use in various contexts. So figure 13, the leftmost figure shows gross fixed capital formation, right? The creation of capital, how much of capital being used in various countries. In the agriculture, forestry and fishing sectors as a share of value added top countries by region. That is, කොච්චර value එකක් agriculture වලින් එනවද national income එකට, ඒකෙන් කොච්චර ප්‍රමාණයක් capital expenditure ද කියලා තමයි මේ තියෙන්නේ, right? So you can see that these yellow lines in the left figure, yellow lines strike out, right? Strike out. So you can see these are countries: Latvia, Belgium, Estonia, right? So maybe you have not heard of these countries. These are European countries, right? These are in Europe, right? Yeah, Latvia, Belgium, Estonia. So they produce a lot of capital, right? So that means if you produce a lot of capital, what is capital? Machinery, equipment, tools. So they are using a lot of machineries than labor, right? They are using a lot of machinery than labor. So that is why their percentage of capital formation is high in the value addition as a percentage of value added from agriculture, right? So just understand, you don't have to memorize these things. You have to see that certain areas in the world, a lot of capital is being used in production. That is, we call in economics, that is capital intensive production, right? Capital intensive production. In the figure 14, government expenditure on agriculture, forestry, and fishing as a share of total outlays, right? Fishing as a share of total outlays. That is, outlays means out of the total expenditure. Outlays කියන්නේ මුළු වියදමෙන් කොච්චර ප්‍රමාණයක්ද government expenditure on capital, right? Government expenditure on capital. For example, now Sri Lanka represents in this picture. That means out of the total expenditure in agriculture, government spending is high in Sri Lanka, right? Government spending is high in Sri Lanka. මේකට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන රටවල් කීපයයිනේ. ඒ කීපේ ලංකාව තියෙන, right? Out of these several few countries in the world, Sri Lanka spends about 4% or 4.5%, or let's say 5% out of the total expenditure, government gives that. Right? Government spends sometimes to build dams, sometimes to build various reservoirs and clean them and whatever, right? So government spending is, we are one of the countries government invests in agriculture. One of the main countries where government invests in agriculture, right? So you can see what kind of countries are here, right? මේක නිකන් තියෙන රටවල් බලන්න මලාවි, භූතාන්, ගයානා, මාලි, තායිලන්ඩ්, බෙලරුස්, Myanmar, Togo, Uzbekistan, Zambia, Fiji, Switzerland. Switzerland is the only developed kind of country. Rwanda, India, Marshall Islands, Sao Tome, I don't know what that country is, but Nepal, Botswana, and so these are poor countries, right? Most of them, except Switzerland, most of them are poor countries. That is why government expenditure is high in these parts of the world, right? That is why government expenditure is needed. Otherwise, it's private sector investment in the production of agricultural outputs. Now, if you look at pesticides, right? If you look at pesticide use, which is a critical factor, and previous government tried to stop fertilizers and artificial things and go organic because of the problems created by pesticides and fertilizers. Now, looking at the world's perspective, how it has the role of pesticide in agricultural production. If you look at from 2000 to 2019, there is 36%, 1/3 increase in pesticide use in the world. Right? 36% increase in 2000 තිබ්බට වැඩිය තව 3න් එකක් වැඩි වෙලා තිනවා. තිබ්බ ප්‍රමාණය සහ 3න් එකක් වැඩිලා තිනවා. Around that much increase in pesticide use around the world, right? Around the world. Right, around the world has increased. So you can see in this figure 15, pesticide use by region. Asia accounts for the largest area where the pesticide is highly used, right? And it's from 2000 to 2019, it has not increased, however, in the Asian region. But you can see that Americas, it has increased from 20. It has increased in the region, but the share of total has come down, right? In all countries, it has increased, right? All areas, it has increased. Body increase and right? But the American region, now out of the total, the percentage employed in the American region has become critical or increase in the total, out of the total, right? So that is what it says. හැම පළාතෙම වැඩි වෙලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් මෙතන 100යි කියලා ගත්තොත් ඒ 100න් 29 ඇමරිකන් රීජන් එකේ දාලා තියෙන්නේ 2000 දී. හැබැයි මෙතන 100යි කියලා ගත්තොත් ඒකෙන් 33ක් දැන් ඇමරිකන් රීජන් එකේ ඇප්ලයි වෙනවා pesticide, right? But you can see that every region pesticide use has increased, right? Pesticide use has increased. So if you look at the second figure, figure 16, pesticide use per cropland by a cropland area by region, that is kilograms per hectare, right? Kilograms per hectare. Hectare එකට කොච්චර දානවද pesticide? African region එකේ you apply very small amounts. Americas, large amount. Asia's in large amount. This is 2000, yellow color 2000, this color 2005, this color 10, this color 2019. So in 2019, although there is small reduction here, generally we can say that all areas pesticide use have increased in various percentages, right? In various percentages, pesticide has become part of agriculture. Its importance is increasing year by year, right? Year by year. The main loki samanya or average in the world. So you can see that it has increased. Pesticide use has increased all over the world, right? So, however, it's a environmental detrimental input into agricultural production. Environment eකට හානි කරනවා මේවා. So therefore, your job as future agriculturists is to find ways to reduce the use of these items, right? Use of these items in the agricultural production, right? Because why? Because it's damaging the environment, and also it's a cost, major cost in your production, right? It is a major cost in your production. So that is why you need to reduce it somehow. This is fertilizer, right? Factors of production, use of fertilizers. Now, if you look at from 2000 to 2019, 33% increase in nitrogen use, as we can see. There is 34% increase in phosphorus, right? So hopefully you know where phosphorus is applied, what is the need for phosphorus in plant growth, what is the need of nitrogen in plant growth. And these are two major things. I think NPK should be also there. Yes, potassium is also there. So, so this is nitrogen and phosphorus in this slide. And you can see nitrogen, use of nitrogen has increased all over the world. In all areas, the nitrogen use has increased. Phosphorus use also has increased, right? So there is 33% increase in nitrogen use and similar increase in phosphorus use, maybe because we apply fertilizers as a ratio of NPK, right? So that is why the similar increases are there, right? So although we try to be organic in the country, the world trend is this, right? World trend is this. More and more nitrogen is used, more and more phosphorus is used in agricultural production, right? But that doesn't mean that organic production is bad. But if you can produce organically whatever the quantity that is needed, that is the best thing to do. But the world trend is this way, right? World trend is this way. So this is potassium. Potassium, you can see that from 2000 to 2019, there is 73% increase in potassium use, right? K is the most, out of NPK in fertilizers, K or the potassium is the most used ingredient in fertilizer, right? Most used mineral in fertilizers. So you can see even in Asia, Americas, Europe, in the leftmost figure, Asia, Americas, Europe, Africa, and Oceania, all areas, the use of potassium has grown rapidly, right? Grown rapidly. That is 73% increase. Again, 2000 තිබ්බ ගානට වඩා 173ක් වැඩි වෙලා තිනවා 2019 apply කරන එක. If you take the total fertilizer, right? Total NPK together, right? Total fertilizer use, right? NPK and maybe other micronutrients as well. But total fertilizer together, there is a 40% increase in overall fertilizer use in the world, right? 40% increase. So we cannot produce without fertilizer. We have come to a situation where we cannot produce without fertilizer because in the Green Revolution, we have started producing hybrid varieties in all crops, started using hybrid varieties which require a lot of fertilizer, right? Lot of fertilizer. So therefore, to gain more and more yield, you need to add more and more fertilizers. Though all the varieties that are being developed require more and more fertilizer. So if you are now looking at this, you have to understand in the future as well, your cost item, one of the major cost item is going to be fertilizer cost in your production. So if you can find ways to reduce use of fertilizer, you will be doing a favor to the environment, and you will greatly reducing your use of fertilizer, your cost of production, right? But having said that, you need to have the required production in order to be profitable in the market. So therefore, there are two things. One is you try to reduce fertilizer, but you have to get the level of production as well, right? So when you try to get the level of production that you need, you will be adding more fertilizer. So that is unavoidable, right? So this is how what is the world trends. So inorganic fertilizer by nutrition and region. So this color, this dark color gives you nitrogen as nitrogen. This color gives you phosphorus. This color gives you potassium. And as expected in all areas, major portion of fertilizer is N, or the nitrogen, right? Nitrogen. This is phosphorus. This is potassium. Although the potassium part is low, the මේ කණුවේ වැඩියෙන් තියෙන nitrogen, ඊට පස්සේ phosphorus is potassium. Now the potassium part එක වැඩි වෙලා තියෙනවා කාලයත් එක්ක. Then now you can see it's 73% increase, as I said earlier. You can see that this part is this high in 2000, 2010, this high, 2019, this high. Right? So that is, it has grown. The requirement for potassium has grown over the years. Now, however, nitrogen is the dominant nutrient that is applied in agriculture, in agricultural production in Europe. It is 64% of fertilizer use. In Africa, it is 61% of fertilizer use. Asia, it is 60% of fertilizer use. Oceania, 51%. Americas, 49%. So, mostly 50 to 60% is nitrogen, right? 50 to 60% in all areas, it's nitrogen, right? So this is the second figure is inorganic fertilizer used per cropland area by nutrient and region. Kilograms per hectare apply karna rate එක, right? Apply karna rate එක still Asia is high, right? Kilograms per hectare apply කරන්නේ ආසියාව තමයි වැඩිම පෝර දාන. That is what you can see in this picture. But පෝර දැමිල්ල කියන්නේ පෝර the amount of fertilizer added into soils have increased over the years in all areas. Right? Yeah, but still in the world, it's a growth in fertilizer application. Right? It's a growth in fertilizer application. That is how the world has changed over the years. Right? So what we have done up to now is we have looked at contribution of agriculture and forestry and fishing to the world economy in terms of value added. And we looked at various inputs in agriculture production. We first looked at land and water, how it has been used, how its use have increased or decreased over the years. Then we looked at labor, how it has been used, how its increase and decrease, its use in over the years, right? So you can see labor use has come down. Maybe more machinery is coming up, but labor is that tells you that labor is becoming scarce. අපිට day-to-day life එකේ ඒක දැනෙනවා. අත්තක් කරනවා නම් ගෙදර උදළු ගා ගන්නවත් මිනිහෙක් නැති size එකක් අපිට දැන් දැනෙනවනේ. So that is shown in the data. And then we looked at capital and countries, and then we looked at pesticide and fertilizer use, and we specifically see that pesticide use have increased over the years and fertilizer use has increased over the years. NP and K, all three has increased over the years. And we saw that nitrogen is the highest used fertilizer or the nutrient in fertilizers that is mostly required because it helps plant growth, and followed by phosphorus and potassium. But the Major finding is, major thing that we saw is that potassium use have increased rapidly over the years, right? Potassium use have increased rapidly over the years in agriculture production, right? That is how inputs are used. Now let's look at production, right? Let's look at production side of this. We looked at input side. Now let's look at production side of this. How has agriculture production changed over the years, right? Changed over the years in the world scenario. Now, you can see that around 53%, right? Around 53% of primary crop production have increased by 53%, around 53%, right? So in 2009, from 2000 to 2019, primary crop production, again, even hadana production, paddy. If the primary crops production has increased by 53% in the 20 years under consideration here from 2000 to 2019, right? So it's around the production of primary crops was 9.4 billion tons in 2019, 53% more than in year 2000, right? 53% more than in year 2000. crop production. Now you see that agriculture is a dominant, it's a growing industry, right? So you should understand, without eating we cannot live. So therefore agriculture becomes a key industry anyway, right? So global primary production is dominated by 4 crops, as I have said in the first slide. Sugarcane, maize, wheat and rice accounts for 50% of global primary production. That may have 9.4 billion වලින් 50%ක්ම sugarcane, maize, wheat and rice. Right? Sugarcane, maize, wheat and rice. That is 4 crops account for about half of the global primary crop production. Those 4 are sugarcane, maize, wheat and rice. Then vegetable and oils production, oil crops, right? Vegetable and oil crop production have increased by 118%. Right? So see the trend, where the trend is, right? So world oil production, again, those things are coming up, right? Sunflower, the crops that produce oil, right? These have come up by 118% from 2000 to 2019. මෙතන 153ක් වැඩි වුණා. මේක 118ක් වැඩි වෙලා. Right? So production vegetables oils, production of vegetable oils, right? Sorry, production of vegetable oils more than doubled between 2000 to 2019, right? So what has increased is production of vegetable oils, right? Vegetable oils production. It's a sharp increase, driven by a sharp increase in palm oil, right? So palm oil has become a major trend in the world oil production. Now, if you look at crops and derived products out of crops, right? In 2019, cereals are the main group of crops produced, right? Main group of crops produced. Sugar crops include sugar beet, sugar cane, and all those crops possible of producing sugar, right? Accounts for 24%, and vegetable and oil crops account for 12% of total production in 2019. So if you look at this figure in world production of crops by commodity group, that is cereals, sugar, vegetables, oil crops, fruits and tubers and other, you can see that cereals account for the larger portion, right? Larger portion. This part is sugar, this part is vegetables, this part is oil crops, fruits and tubers, right? So all these have grown, but you can see that here oil crops, which is this one, it has grown quickly. This one, fruits and tubers, are also rising, right? They are rising in the world. Second one is similar figure. This is by commodity groups, but this is by commodities, right? Sugarcane, maize, roots and tubers can group එකක්. Vegetables come a group එකක්, right? So other than that, here we specifically in the second figure, this one, figure 21, gives you specifically which crops are growing, right? Faster. Which crops account for the largest portion in the world production and how they grow. Now, sugarcane is this part, right? This is the මේ මුළු හදන ගාන 100යි නම් ඒකෙන් 42ක් හදන්නේ මොනවාද? Other, right? So other crops together. But if you take one single crop, sugarcane, the part, yes, sugarcane is the largest production, right? So seen the more sugarcane, right? Why is it coming up this much? Because sugarcane is not only producing sugar, but it is used to produce biodiesel and all this fuel, right? So that is why it's being produced in high quantities, right? So that is in 2009. So that is how crops and derived products have increased. This is world production of main primary crops by main producers, right? Main producers. Who produces these things? Now, sugarcane, mainly Thailand, India, sorry, mainly Brazil, India and Thailand. Maize, United States, China and Brazil. Wheat, China, India and Russia. Rice, China, India and Indonesia. Oil palm, Indonesia, Malaysia and Thailand. Right? Sri Lanka is trying to establish oil palm, but the government has prohibited cultivating that, assuming that it has a bad environmental impact. Potatoes, China, India and Russia. Right? So you can see India, China favors everywhere. Right? So they are most of the biggest agricultural producers in the world. Then world production of main vegetable oils by main producers. Oil palm, as expected, it's Indonesia, Malaysia and China, Thailand. Soybean oil is China, United States and Brazil. Rapeseed oil, Canada, China and Germany. Sunflower oil, Ukraine, maybe it's coming low into the market now because of the war, Russian Federation and Argentina, right? So this is how main producers in the world in various crops, right? Various crops. Who are the main producers in the world? Now, as I said, livestock forms major part, right? Livestock forms major part of world's agriculture, right? World's agriculture. So therefore, we have to talk about livestock production. Right? We have to talk about livestock production. So if you look at meat, right? Look at meat. From 2000 to 2019, there is 44% increase in meat production, right? 44% increase in meat production. And half of that is chicken, right? Half of that is chicken. අපි හදන ලෝකේ පුරාම හදන meat වලින් භාගයක්ම කුකුල් මස්, right? භාගයක්ම කුකුල් මස්. Other half contributes from others. So there are 337 million tons of meat were produced in 2019, 44% more than 2000, with chicken meat representing half of their increase, half of the increase, right? 44% වැඩි වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒකෙන් භාගයක්ම වැඩි වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කුකුල් මස් වලින් තමයි වැඩි වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. So if you break down the meat production, if you break down the meat production, chicken meat, you can see this is chicken, right? Chicken meat is greater than pigs, then cattle, right? Then others. So chicken meat was the most produced type of meat in 2009. Still, it is the most produced type of meat. So it means kanda kamathima kukul mas, right? Make it, right? So others are there, but still chicken surpasses every other meat. And livestock commodities, if you look at world production of meat in main items, and you can see meat production have increased, right? Meat production have increased over the years. Now I will show you in the next slide set, or even yes, in the next slide set, that meat production is polluting industry, right? It is a polluting industry that it it's it contributes to greenhouse gas emissions, right? In very significant manner, right? So therefore, meat production has to be reduced, right? So, but still, there is very large increase of a growing need for meat consumption. Now, meat consumption increases with people's income, right? So you can see that even in Sri Lanka, people go to very sophisticated or very high-end restaurants. Meat is the main item, right? Meat is the main item rather than cereals like rice and curry that we eat. Poor people eat rice and curry, rich people eat meat, right? So when your income increases, your meat consumption increases. So most countries, their incomes have increased over time, and therefore meat consumption have increased over time. And if you look at world production of main meats by main producers in 2019, if you look at chicken in the first bar in here, if you look at chicken in the first bar, United States, China, and Brazil are the main producers of chicken. Then pigs, main big producer is China. About 40% of the total world production is produced by China, followed by United States and Germany. If you look at cattle, main producer is United States of America, followed by Brazil and China, right? So Brazil is one of the major cattle producers in the world, right? It's not a rich country, it's not a developed country, but still it's one of the largest producers of cattle in the world. Now, coming to milk production, if you look at milk, how it is being produced, you can see that in Asia is the largest milk producer in producing region in the world. All regions milk production have increased, right? So we are increasing consuming milk in the world, right? So you can see the demand rising. Sri Lanka is similar, right? This change, this trend is similar in Sri Lanka as well. Right? So if you look at in the second figure, if you look at main producers by main producers, the production by main producers. Now this green color, 21% is produced by India, right? Main producers of milk, 21% of world milk production is in India, 11% is in United States, 6% is in Pakistan, 4% is in China. China, you see it's a big country, but only 4% of the world milk production is in China. Brazil, 4%, and 4%. Others are also around 4%, right? So, main producer is our neighbor, India. This is X, right? This is X. You can see a similar figure. Egg production has also increased over time from 2000 to 2019. Again, eggs are produced mainly in Asian region. Yes, Asian region. And if you look at the second figure by producers, 35% of eggs comes from China, right? 35% of eggs is in China, then 8%. In the total world production of eggs, China accounts for 35%. United States, 8%. India, 7%. Indonesia, 6%, and so on, right? Japan is only 3% out of the world production. That doesn't mean they are small, but out of the world production, 3% is produced in Japan, right? Now, that is how production is organized, right? How production is distributed around the world, right? How production is distributed around the world. So, next we go into sustainability aspects, right? Sustainability aspects. We have only, I think, few slides. So, we will, we will have a small break because it's 10:55. So, we will have a 15 minutes break before we go into the next slide set, right? So, sorry, we have these 3 slides and we have another set of slides to discuss today. So we will stop here for a small break, 10:55, come back at 5 minutes past 11, right? So I will most probably finish by 12:30. So that is the aim, plan. It may be a little bit before, little bit after, around 12:30, right? So shall we have a small break? Right, okay. Are you here?
Yes, sir.
Right, okay. So, okay. So, now, up to now, we have looked at what has happened to input use in the in agriculture in the world, and what has happened in agricultural production in crops, in livestock, and eggs and milk. Right. So that is what we have considered up to now. Now, with this production, right? So there is a concern in agriculture production about the sustainability and environmental aspects, right? Environmental aspects. So although we say that agriculture is good, but there is environmental impact on anything, right? So try to understand any production. When you do production, there is good output and bad output, right? So with every production process, good output is what we use, but there is a bad output as well. So likewise, agriculture is not different. It has, while it produces a lot of things for us to use, there is bad output as well. So therefore, we look at those things and about what the impact of agricultural production into the environment. Right? Now, between 2000 to 2019, agricultural land has declined by 127 million hectares. Right? So it's roughly the size of a Niger is a country. So roughly around the size of a country, the agricultural land has been declined, while the forest area declined by 94 million hectares. Right? So agricultural land declined by 127 million hectares. Why? Because it's used for other services, right? Other industries, and the forest land has declined by 97 million hectares from 2000 to 2019. So it's given. It says that it's about the size of United Republic of Tanzania. So for you to see the vastness of the decline, right? Vastness of the decline. Google and see the size where Niger is, and Google and see where the Republic of Tanzania is, and try to understand this is the amount of land area that we lost over the past 20 years. Now, half of the harvested area in the land, agricultural land, is planted with cereals, right? Because cereals is, in most countries, cereals is the staple food, right? So therefore, cereals are logically the largest grown crops in the world. Now, if you look at water stress level, nearly all countries near East and North Africa, right? East and North Africa around here, all countries in East and North Africa have water stress level close to 100% or above, right? 100% water stress, right? Now, we will see when we discuss the emerging trends in the agriculture in the next decade, how countries, how agriculture producers adapt to these things. But what you have to see is water stress is a problem, right? Stress is a high level problem in agriculture sectors and around the world, right? So the highest shares in Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. So you will see that in these countries, although we say that there is a water stress, you will see that they have started new things to overcome this water stresses, right? And greenhouse gas emissions, these are things that is related to environment in agriculture production, right? One is forest area declining, agriculture area declining, and agriculture area has an impact on the forest area. And also then we look at water stress level. Water becomes a scarce commodity, scarce input in agriculture production. There is high stress in certain regions around the world. And also the next problem related to sustainability and environmental aspects of agriculture is greenhouse gas emissions on agricultural land, right? So, however, on agricultural land, the greenhouse gas emission has reduced by around 2%, right? Greenhouse gas emissions on agricultural land has declined by 2% from in the past 20 years, from 2000 to 2019, right? Now, out of this the reduction in greenhouse gas emission, farm gate emissions account for 2/3 of them. That is, farm gate emissions have been reduced, right? So, farm gate emissions reduce in the crops, right, on agricultural lands. No, greenhouse gas emissions on agricultural land declined by 2% between 2000 to 2019. Farm gate emissions is the main portion of the agricultural greenhouse gas emissions, right? Farm gate කියන්නේ farm එකේ emissions. නැත්තම් ඒ farm එකේ ඉඳන් මුළු supply chain එකේම emissions නෙමෙයි, right? Now, if you look at farm gate greenhouse gas emissions, there is a 11% increase between 2000 to 2019. Around 55% of them are related to livestock, right? 55% of the farm gate emission. And farm emissions වලින් 155ක් livestock production එකකින්, right? So that is why I said previously in the previous slide when I discussed livestock production, that livestock is environmentally hazardous production system, right? It produces greenhouse gases, right? So I'm not saying that we should stop livestock, but there is environmental impact of livestock production in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, right? So that is what the future holds, right? That is what the future holds. Now, look at what we have discussed. We have discussed what are the production levels, how they have increased over time, and what are the inputs that are used, and what is the kinds of production, what are the kinds of inputs that are used, and so on and so forth. And then we look at sustainability and environmental aspects of agriculture. Now, you understand the past trend, right? You understand the past trend in world agriculture. Now, let's look at, with these problems, right? With this problem, what the future holds, right? What the future holds for the agriculture sector, right? So let's talk about the future, right? Let's talk about the future. Now we have looked at the past. Now let's talk about the future challenges of agriculture in terms of what we have seen in the past and in terms of what are the trends in agriculture and food production and consumption. Now, if you look at the demand for food, right? Demand for food, there will be An elevated increase in demographics will boost demand for food in the future to come, right? What is demographic? Demographic is study of population, right? Study of the word demographic means study of population. So we look at population features, right? We look at population features. Now, if you look at population growth, right? Population growth, it is expected to grow by around 33% to almost 10 billion by 2050, right? 10 billion by 2050. I think it's past 8 billions now, right? So 8 billion has already surpassed. So there will be 10 billion people, 10 billion mouths to be fed by 2050, right? So this is how the annual growth of population has occurred from 2012 to 2021, and this is the annual growth is expected to happen from 2022 to 2031, right? So this color is the annual growth from 2012 to 2021, and this color, the ash color or the gray color, is the annual growth from 2022 to 2031. Right? You can see that annual growth is expected to decline. Again, අවුරුද්දෙන් වැඩිවීම අඩුයි, but still you have a lot of people born in various countries. Right? So this is it. The growth in population, the growth has declined. Now look at this. Right? SSA is Sub-Saharan Africa. So SSA is blue, right? So this African countries, you can see the population growth. Right? There's a growth. Now, what is this one? India. There's a population growth, right? Green one, China. They have somehow reduced the growth, right? So 2023, their population growth has come down because of strict birth control, but now I understand they have relaxed the birth control because growth has reduced. Although they have large number of people, the growth rate has reduced. Therefore, they have relaxed the number of children the people could have, right? So they had a one child policy, then two child policy. I think they have now gone up to 3 child, right? Three children. So you can see some areas of the world it's growing, some areas of the world it's coming down after 2023, expected to come down by 2031, right? But still, the number of people in 2050 will be greater than number of people today, right? Number of people today is 8 billion. Number of people in 2020 will be 10 billion. It will increase by at least 2 billion, right? 2 billion people by 20 years, right? So therefore, you need, that means there will be demand, right? There will be demand for food, right? There will be demand for food. So who produces food? Agriculture, right? So population growth will boost demand for food even in modest economic growth scenario, right? Modest economic growth scenario means if you assume that economic growth in countries, the economies will grow slowly, not that fast, still you have to increase agriculture output by 50% as compared to 2013 agriculture output. අපි සාමාන්‍ය විදියට economy එක grow වුණා කියලා හිතුවත් ලෝකෙ 50% agriculture production වැඩි කරනවා, right? So that is why I say this is a good industry. Lot of potential there to earn money, right? So global use of major commodities, if you look at the breakdown, maize, let's look at this is 2019-21. This is the prediction for 2031. This is the prediction for 2031. What are the colors? This orange color is food, for food, right? Maize used for food. This blue color, maize used for feed. Green color, maize used for biofuel, right? And this ash or the gray color is other uses. So you can see in both years from 2019 to 21 period and from 2031 prediction, this part is greater. What is that? Maize used for feed. Now, majority of the maize that is produced is not consumed by humans, but it is used for feed production, right? Feed means the animal feed, right? Going into animals, right? So that is how world is organized. Now, agriculture is organized. Now, you may have thought, okay, maize is produced, everyone eats maize, but no, most of the maize that is produced are used in feed production, right? And this is biofuel production. But if you look at rice, it's mainly for human consumption, right? Mainly for human consumption. Wheat, mainly for human consumption. There is small part going in for feed production. Oilseed and other products, mostly for animal consumption, animal feed production, right? So meat is solely for human consumption and so on. You can understand the trend, right? You can see where the agricultural output that is produced goes into use, right? And if you look at demographics again, right? Demographics again, then Metana, you might think, okay, maize part of this is major part is going into animal production. What is the impact of population growth? Population growth will increase the demand for meat. To meat production, you need feed, right? To feed production, you need meat production, you need feed. For feed production, you need maize, right? Again, it's driven by the growth in the population, right? So try to understand what is happening in the world. So population growth is equal to higher demand for food. So there will be 10 billion world population. It's expected to be 10 billion in 2050. That means 70% more food to be produced by farmers, right? So when you have 10 billion people, 70% of more දැනට වඩා 70%ක් food production වැඩි කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා තමයි කියන්නේ. Right? So urbanization drives changes in consumption pattern. Now, as I said earlier, people's income has increased. People come into urban areas, area to cultivate and all that. With that, the way that we consume, the items that we consume have changed. For example, in 1997-1999 period, processed food and meat, annual per capita meat consumption, processed food and meat annual per capita consumption is around 36.4 kilograms. Right? Per capita again, එක මිනිහෙක් සාමාන්‍ය අවුරුද්දකට 36.4 කිලෝග්‍රෑම් ලෝකෙම ගත්තම අවුරුද්දකට 36.4 කිලෝග්‍රෑම් මස් කාලා. But when it comes to 2030, it's going to increase, it's a prediction, going to increase to 45.3 kilograms processed food and meat annual per capita consumption. එක මිනිහෙක් කිලෝග්‍රෑම් 45.3ක් කනවා 2031 වෙනකොට. But now it's still we are eating 36.4. That again is කිලෝග්‍රෑම් 10කින් විතර 2030 වෙනකොට තව අවුරුදු 3යි වැඩි වෙනවා, right? නෑ 97 ඉඳන් ගන්නට වඩා කිලෝග්‍රෑම් 10කින් වෙනවා, right? Anyway, what I'm telling is people's meat consumption is increasing, right? People's meat consumption increasing over the years. And if you look at current uses of natural resources that are highly stressed, we said in the previous slide set, in the last few slides, land is stressed, water stress is there, and so on. Now, if you look at natural resources, 25% of all farmland is already rated as highly degraded. Right? 25% of all farmland. Can crops වවන areas වලින් 125ක් ලෝකේ degraded. That is the estimation. 25% of farmland is highly degraded. Close to 80% of global deforestation is driven by agricultural concerns. People cut down trees to do agriculture, right? So 80% of global deforestation is driven by agricultural concerns. $1 trillion investment necessary until 2050 for irrigation water management in developing countries alone, only in developing countries. To provide water for cultivation, $1 trillion is expected to be spent until 2050. right? Until 2050. 2019 මේක ගහලා තියෙන්නේ 2019 ඉඳන් 2050 වෙනකොට $1 trillion you have to spend in developing countries alone for water provision, right? Water provision in these countries, right? So this is what the future holds for the agriculture sector. And in addition, climate change is reducing productivity in agriculture. Now we see that we said that 70% more food is to be produced, cater in 2050, right? But with that, climate change is also coming, right? Climate change is happening at the moment, right? That affects agriculture. And greenhouse gas emissions over the past 50 years, it has increased 2 times, right? 2 times increase in greenhouse gas emission, close to 2 times increase in greenhouse gas emissions has occurred in the past 50 years, right? Now, because of that, there will be rise in temperature, variability in rainfall, there will be droughts, floods, all of which will tend to reduce yields of crops, right? Will reduce yields of crops. So there will be more sun, temperature, variability in rainfall. Again, rainfall අවශ්‍යලාට ලැබෙන්නේ වෙන වෙන තැන් වල ලැබෙනවා. Say droughts and floods and right. So these things will reduce yields of crops, right? So this is the future, right? This is the future. So what is the future? 25% of farmland is already rated as degraded. Degraded means there are less nutrients. That means you will have to add lot of fertilizer to get some output out of this. And forests are cut down because of agricultural concerns, and also water is a big problem. 1 trillion has to be spent by 2050 throughout this period up until 2050. Water stress has to be managed. For that, you need to spend around $1 trillion. And in addition to that, climate change is happening, right? Climate change is happening, and therefore there is expectation for a reduction in yield, right? Right? Yield reduction expect කරනවා. එතකොට අපිට දැන් population is growing, there is more demand, but again land is degraded. You cannot produce on those land is degraded. Climate change reduces yield. So that is the problem that you will face as future agriculturists. And also there's a key aspect in waste, right? There is a key aspect in waste. Food waste is a massive market inefficiency, right? Massive market inefficiency. Why are we saying it a market inefficiency? Food waste happens from production to consumption, right? So from production in a farm up until it goes onto a consumer's mouth, all are market channel or supply chain. In this supply chain, lot of food is wasted, right? Lot of food is wasted. Between 33% to 50% of all food produced globally is never eaten. Never eaten means it's going into waste that it cannot be eaten. Transport කරනකොට තැලෙනවා, එමෙම විසි කරලා දානවා. So all these, about 33% to 50% food is thrown out. No one can eat that. That means this, to produce this 33% to 50%, around 25% of all fresh water consumption globally. දැන් අපි මේ අතාරලා විසි කරලා දාන food හදන්න වතුර දානෝනේ. I said water is a major stress here, right? Water is a major stress. So produce this 33% or 50% food, we have used water. That amount that we throw away is around 25% of all fresh water that is consumed globally, right? Globally. Can loke පාවිච්චි කරන fresh water වලින් 125ක් විතර අපි විසි කරනවා හැමතිස්සෙම. Right? ඇයි? Waste එකක් හරහා, right? Through food waste. To produce food you need water, and once you produce food and if you throw away, that means you throw away the water as well, right? Water that is going into this production and all other inputs, right? So this is a massive problem that is going to occur. And the outcome of all these, right? Outcome of all these that we have discussed is poverty, right? Poverty and hunger, right? Poverty and hunger. This is the outcome of all that we have discussed is going to happen. So there is a lot of people being born, and therefore lot of mouths to feed, and climate change is happening. That means it will reduce production. Natural resources are under threat. You cut down forests, land is degraded, and food is wasted. And all this, right? All this, with all this, you have to because of all this, 700 million people will remain extremely poor, right? If you take the whole world, 700 million people will remain extremely poor. 800 million people will face chronic hunger. That is long-term hunger, right? 800 million people will face chronic hunger, and 2 billion people will suffer from micronutrient deficiencies. Now, you talk about taxes, right? How taxes affect consumption in the country. We say that taxes have reduced our ability to consume. More people go into poverty. But you don't understand, when we throw away food, that creates poverty, right? That creates malnutrition, right? So when you get a plate of rice to eat, and let's say you throw away, you can eat only half of that, but you put a lot of things. When go to a wedding and see, people get a lot of food into their plates. They cannot eat because they are greedy. They get a lot of food into their plates, and they can eat only half of that. Other half is thrown away, right? So that will make these people extremely poor, right? Extremely poor, extremely hungry, extremely weak, right? So therefore, we have to do something for all these aspects. What is that? We cannot do anything with the population growth. We cannot control growth. We cannot control climate change, but we can control how we produce with this climate change. We can control how degradation of natural resources, but we can have methods of production without degradation of natural resources, right? And we can definitely reduce food waste. Then that will be available for others to consume. And so that is what we have to do, right? For with that in mind, there is something called agriculture 4, right? There is something called agriculture 4. Now, I hope you understood how I came to this. Slide. We have first discussed what was the trend from 2000 to 2020, around 2020, past 20 years. What has happened to inputs used in agriculture? What has happened to agriculture production? What is mostly produced in these areas? Where are they producing? Who are producing, and all that? Then we looked at the issues in agriculture in the first few slides of this. Now we are saying, what is the solution, right? What is the solution? Possible solution. People describe that as agriculture 4.0. So agriculture 4.0 is a term for the next big trends facing the industry, including a greater focus on precision agriculture, because we understood we are wasting things, we are damaging the environment. So therefore, we are focusing on a greater focus on precision agriculture, Internet of Things, and the use of big data to drive greater business efficiencies in the face of rising population and climate change. So this is the aim. So how do this agriculture 4 work, right? What is its aim? What can be done in this kind of thinking, right? This kind of thinking. Now, if you look at agriculture 4.0, its overview, understand this picture in this manner. This is today, and this is time, right? This is time, and these are activities, various activities that that we say in agriculture for what should be done. Now, first thing that should be done is, according to this thinking, first one is produce differently using new techniques, right? Produce differently using new techniques. Avoid these traditional techniques and produce differently using new techniques. Now, this is today, right? Today and recent, future, and this is the future, right? So if you look at this, produce differently using new techniques. Now, hydroponics, I think you have already heard. Even when I was a undergraduate, we were taught about hydroponics. And bioplastic, we will look at them, and algae feedstock is at the moment happening, right? Future is desert agriculture and seawater farming, right? So it will take time for us to get these into the common practice of agriculture. Right? So that is produce differently using new techniques. So these are some new techniques, and you can produce in various ways, right? Then next one is use new technologies to bring food production. Use new technologies to bring food production to consumers, increase efficiencies in the food chain, right? So reduce waste, increase efficiencies in the food chain. That is sometimes today we have even know what is vertical farming because we don't have that much of land, so we go up in the land rather than go horizontally. Extent එක වැඩි කරන්නේ නැතුව මේ උඩට යනවා, right? So that is vertical farming or urban farming. Then we come up with genetic modification, cultured meats. That is, you don't actually grow an animal. You get a cell from an animal and grow the meat, right? So like you, maybe you have learned about tissue culture. So that tissue culture into animals, right? So that is cultured meats. And 3D printing. That is, I will show you a video printing food. Now, actually food can be printed, right? So that is a future trend. Then incorporate cross-industry technologies and application. Incorporate cross-industry techniques and application means the techniques that are used in other industries has to be used in agricultural industry. So drone technology, data analytics, Internet of Things, precision agriculture, all are things you have learned or heard about. And nanotechnology, the future is nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, food sharing and crowd farming, blockchain are the future to come. So because I have to show some videos, let me share it with the sound. Give me 1 minute. Okay, so that is what we have learned up to now. So let's go into 2.1. I'm taking some of the examples. I could not find videos and things for everything, but some of the examples will be shown to you how it is done, and it's already happening in the world, right? So some countries have taken steps to go into these areas, and we will show that. So first one is hydroponics. A subset of hydroculture is the method of growing plants without soil using mineral nutrient solutions in a water solvent. So you have already seen this, I think, in your lectures. Maybe you have learned about hydroponics, right? Now, if you look at this company, I think it's in Australia. Yes, it's in Australia, Sunrock. For example, a company based in Australia has developed a hydroponic seawater technology that combines solar desalination and agriculture to grow vegetable in any region. So they are using seawater to grow vegetables, right? So let's see. Hopefully the video will run. Right? Can you see this? Did you hear the sound?
Yes, sir.
Make a pain all. Right?
1 minute. 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 1 min
මේක පේනවද? වීඩියෝ පේනවද?
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Right. Okay. Okay. So let's listen to this. Yeah?
We're standing right now in one of our 5-hectare greenhouses, which makes up part of a 20-hectare farm here in Australia. We're looking at about 180,000 tomato plants, and they produce about 2 truckloads worth of tomatoes that go for nationwide distribution at Coles supermarkets every day.
This is a world's first. So we're harnessing the sun's energy to desalinate salt water to create fresh water to irrigate our crops.
When the sun comes up over the Flinders Ranges, the mirrors reflect the sun's energy to a central point on the tower. At the top of the tower, you see a very bright light, and that bright light is basically the focus of all those 23,000 plus mirrors onto the central point.
The partnership that I formed with Rainier in setting up this business was really fortuitous.
We both knew, considering the increase in population, that we had to address the food shortage, the water shortage, the energy shortage. About 5 kilometers away, we have the Spencer Gulf. We pipe in seawater through a pipeline underground into the first 2 ponds. The water is being then pumped to the multi-effect distillation unit. That's where it's being converted into fresh water.
When you think about all those input costs in traditional agriculture, you're a complete price taker on all of your inputs, and that creates a really volatile business model. And we said, how can we move away from that? We built a very small pilot facility in 2009. We were only 2 people at that time, and then slowly but surely over the years grew by 1 or 2 more.
We have the best of both worlds because we are a small, agile company, but on the other end, we benefit from the support from a fairly large and well-capitalized financial sponsors.
This is the part where the fruits are going to be formed. So it's very, very important that this is looking good. And what we're looking for here is we're looking at the color of the leaves. We're looking at the strength and the thickness of the head of the plant. We're also looking at the truss development. And all of the nutrition is delivered through the drip feed irrigation system. So this provides our water and the nutritional needs for the plants. Once our plants start producing, we'll harvest 1 truss every week and we'll grow 1 new truss every week. Midsummer, we'll produce 15 to 20,000 5-kilogram cases per day.
The relationship with Coles is really significant that we have here. It's a true partnership. It's to the extent that we haven't seen historically.
Because we do everything in a controlled environment, we know what our input costs are, and we're doing everything on a renewable basis, we can provide real consistency of supply, a higher quality product at a better price year-round.
We have an agreement for 10 years to basically sell all our tomatoes at a fixed price, and that enabled us to put on the ground here a fairly large piece of infrastructure.
When you have a growing category and then you have these 100-year weather events that are happening every 2 to 3 years here in Australia, Coles would consistently find themselves without quality product or with no product. So Sundrop really partnered with Coles to provide a solution. Sundrop Farms is a triple bottom line business. We produce a better product that's better for people and better for the planet all year round.
What we do in the future may not look exactly like this facility in Port Augusta, but it'll always have those core tenets, that triple bottom line nature of the business. Whether we're growing berries in Tennessee or peppers in Portugal, I think that spirit and that sense will be a part of everything that we do.
Right. So what's happened? Right. So that is about producing differently using new techniques. Right. So that is for you to have a gist about what is happening. Right. So what is happening in the world
Right now, gas weak now.
gas තියනවලු ඉස්සරහා කාටද? Right. So no, I think some of you are not listening anyway. I don't know. Right. Okay. Then next one is produced differently using new techniques. This is algae farmed in aquaculture. Sites can become a substitute for feedstock and fish meal. Now you have seen in the previous slides here, you can see that maize that is produced here, maize that is produced is going for feed production, right? Going for feed production, which is in animal consumption. Now, if you can reduce this amount, this is available for human consumption, right? This is available for human consumption. So what this tells you is algae farm in aquaculture sites can become substitute for feedstock and fish meal, and it's going to reduce cost by 60 to 70% than producing through traditional methods, right? So what you do is you have seen prawn cultivations. ඉස්සොහත්ම දැකලා ඇති aquaculture කරනවා. ඒ වගේ ටැංකි වල හෝ ලොකු areas වල you grow algae. You grow algae, and from this algae you produce feed, right? You produce animal feed, and that feed is cheaper, right? That feed is cheaper. So that means the maize that is going into feed production will be available for consumption of humans. And this also means that cost is low, and therefore the production of animal meat will also be low, and therefore meat prices will also come down. So this is not that much practiced, but it is the way forward, right? That is a way forward. Then the next thing, desert agriculture. Now we should be ashamed of ourselves. Now we have, I said when I showed you the picture on water stress, right? You have seen, I think you saw, if you are listening to me, you saw that Asian region doesn't have that much of a water problem compared to others, right? Asian region has water problems, but I mean on the average. But we said somewhere in I don't know in this picture or not in this one, but in the other one, I have shown you that in the African region, water stress is greatest. Now with this all water available for us, we have rain in our wet zone, we don't have any issue. Still, we are producing very less amount of things. But look at Saudi Arabia, right? Look at Saudi Arabia, how they have converted these deserts into farmlands. Right? Let's look at that and try to let me copy that link.
So there's a lot of different ways to learn data, but most of them
Hello guys and welcome to our channel. We all are aware of the fact that in the past few years, Saudi Arabia's agriculture development is astonishing. Large areas of the desert have been turned into agricultural fields. This transformation can definitely be called a major accomplishment for a country, especially when the country receives an average of about 4 inches of rain a year. In today's video, we're going to tell you how and why Saudi Arabia is turning its deserts into huge farmlands. So, stick with us and let's dive into today's video. Saudi Arabia is called as a desert kingdom. The country's wealth soared when oil was discovered. It utilizes billions of dollars of oil earnings to fuel many aspects of its economy and the lives of its citizens. One of these elements is the kingdom's food supply, which imports more than 80% of its required food using oil revenue. Approximately just 1.5% of Saudi Arabia's land area is arable. And what agriculture the nation does have consumes 80% of the country's limited water supply. While the kingdom is now food secure, agriculture in Saudi Arabia has been a key focus for those looking to increase the country's sustainability and mitigate the danger of global food supply network failures. The 1970s marked the beginning of serious agricultural development in the kingdom, and by the 1990s, Saudi Arabia was one of the largest wheat exporters in the world. Not just wheat, it also exports vegetables, fruits, dairy, products, and dates. Now, just think of Saudi Arabia. What comes to your mind? A scorching sun, inhospitable climate, and endless sand dunes? But how does such a country become such a big exporter of wheat? If we dig into the details, there is something going on in the country. Now let's find out. The government launched an extensive program to promote modern farming technology. The reason being the establishment of irrigation networks, storage, and expert facilities. Also to encourage agriculture research and training institutions. Huge circular greeneries are all across the country. And they are farmable in the middle of the desert as well. Surprisingly, in the past 60 years, Saudi Arabia has transformed 24,000 square kilometers of desert into fertile lands. About 10,000 years ago, Saudi Arabia was a land of rolling grasslands and forests watered by torrential monsoon rains. But now engineers have tapped this ancient water to meet the water needs of the country. This fossil water was trapped in aquifers as deep as 1 kilometer below the ground. These tactics paid off well. Saudi Arabia used this water for farming and milk production on a large scale. Conservation of energy and water isn't needed for a proper irrigation system. One of the best ways for this purpose was the century pivot irrigation method. Luckily, Saudi Arabia used that. This method was created by a farmer from Colorado named Frank Zybach. As the name highlights, the center pivot irrigates in a circular fashion around a central pivot point. Not just water, but these pivots are capable of supplying herbicides and chemical fertilizers. So by using a single piece of machinery, the overall efficiency of the irrigation system was improved. Saudi Arabia has been building central pivot systems for 50 years. But Arabian Peninsula receives very little rainfall. The aquifers have nearly emptied. When we talk about the western mountainous region of Saudi Arabia, most rainfall flows back to the sea unused. This means Saudi Arabia is suffering from water loss, and this also affects the agriculture. But to meet the needs of its people, Saudi Arabia plans smartly and has brought agricultural lands in US, Indonesia, Argentina, and other African countries. If we look into history, when urbanization and modernization increased, the government made the Bedouin tribes to settle in one place, and due to overgrazing there, the fertile lands were converted into rocky desert. So, 2 royal Saudi princesses initiated a development project in these areas that was led by Harvard University bioethics, Mona Hamdi, and Stanford University permaculturalist Neil Speckman. They lived among Bedouin communities for 8 years and built rock terraces, checked dams and shallow ditches in the land to trap water. Unfortunately, the funding was cut in 2016, and the whole project was in danger. But in 2018 and 2019, rain fell again, and the whole area turned into a savanna. The mountain terraces trapped water and gave life to the soil. After that comes another project. The country launched the Al-Baida project to manage the floodwater that was directly going to the sea unused. If the entire west coast is covered under the project, then 30 million acres can be transformed into agricultural lands. But this will cost billions of dollars in time. Positively, the agricultural capacity of Saudi Arabia could be multiplied by a minimum of 6 times, which will increase the GDP up to 5%. It will be helpful to reverse desertification, as carbon gases will again be fixed to fertile soil, and this will result in rainfall in the region. To supply the population with fresh water, Saudi Arabia is using another tactic. That is to use desalination plants to desalinate the seawater into fresh water. One method for desalination is by using thermal gases, and the other is by membrane-based reverse osmosis, which runs by using electricity. This electricity is harnessed by nuclear power. So before you get confused, let's simplify it. To make a land green, we need water, and for water, we need to desalinate it. For desalination, nuclear energy is required. All of this is interconnected. Facilities have also been put into place to treat urban and industrial runoff for agricultural irrigation. Liquid nano clay, or LNC, serves as another important tactic. This is being used nowadays that can save water consumption by 50%, but it is quite expensive. LNC is a treatment that gives the sand a clay coating so that it can trap water effectively. Saudi Arabia has also allocated financial resources for agricultural research purposes to further improve its agricultural system. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know in the comment section what you think about Saudi Arabia's agricultural system.
Right. So that is about desert becoming agriculture, right? So we are agricultural land, now we are becoming a desert. Right? So this is what you mean by produce differently using new techniques. And the next one is sustainable packaging called bioplastics. It's an example of again, this is helping the supply chain, right? Helping the supply chain. You can see this PIP, I don't know how you call that, PIPA, compostable plastic packaging. And I will not show the video here because time is running, and you can see that company is also producing. It's an Israeli company. Company's packaging is able to emulate the properties of plastic in protecting food and other goods. But at its end of life, the products decompose and return to nature via composting. Right? So this is plastic that can be used to produce compost, unlike our plastic that we use. And this one I will show. This is vertical and urban farming. Vertical farming is one answer to providing high quality produce sustainably. Vertical farming is the process of growing food in vertically stacked layers, producing food in challenging environment where suitable land is unavailable. So we can do it in town areas. We are getting we are transporting vegetables from villages to towns, creating a lot of food losses. But if you do this vertical kind of farming, because we don't have space in town areas, this is a possibility, right? So let's look at aero farms, how they do that and how they incorporate AI in the production of agriculture.
Today, we invite you for an exclusive visit with agriculture technology leader and vertical farming pioneer, Aero Farms, at their global headquarters in Newark, New Jersey, home to the largest indoor vertical farm in the world. Once an abandoned steel mill, Aero Farms has transformed this 70,000 square foot facility into a high-tech farming operation that can annually produce up to 2 million pounds of leafy green vegetables, growing hundreds of varieties of fresh, local, nutritious, and great-tasting produce all year round. Their closed-loop growing system is at the nexus of biology, engineering, and big data. Crops grow in optimal conditions in customized vertical towers without sun or soil. Baby leafy greens grow under special recipes of LED lights on a patented growing cloth medium in custom aeroponic towers. Aero Farms' proprietary controlled environment design and smart use of sensors, IoT, machine learning, and data analytics allows them to collect and analyze hundreds of thousands of data points on inputs such as humidity, temperature, nutrition, and yield, resulting in 390 times greater productivity than field farming, while creating a higher quality, safer, more nutritious, and even better tasting product. More importantly, Aero Farms are designed to maximize quality while minimizing harm to the environment. They use 95% less water than field farming, up to 40% less fertilizer, and are pesticide-free. Aero Farms is on a mission to feed the world and totally transform the current agricultural paradigm from seed to package, using cutting-edge technology and big data as their eyes and ears. Aero Farms has cultivated key strategic partners like Dell Technologies to maximize how we harvest not just our plants, but also the data to ensure we can replicate and scale our farms around the world. Even more importantly, we share similar philosophies to be a force for good in the world. We both place our team, customers, community, environment, and investors at the heart of every decision we make. In the work we do, we are here to inspire and hope that our mission and technology motivates you to get involved and build a better world.
Right. So that is about how vertical farming is going on in various countries. Right. I'm just showing you showing these to motivate you what the future looks like. And this is the next one is we were here producing differently now. Second one is to use new technologies to bring food production to consumers, and vertical farming was one of the things that you can consider. And the second one is use new technologies to bring food production to consumers is using genetically modified and cultured meats. Right? So the meaning of this is you can actually, you don't have to have an animal to produce meat. You don't have to kill an animal to produce meat. Right? So you take a cell, tissue culture that cell, and culture meat. Right? So this can be seen here. I don't want to show you the full. I don't know whether the video is available here, but this is. You can go into this website. It shows pioneering a cleaner, kinder way of making beef. Let's read this. We are Mosa Meat, food technology company that's helping everyone to take a bite out of better future, starting with world's kindest beef burger. Means you don't kill a cow or a beef or cattle to get beef, right? So that is what it's all about, right? So you can eat meat without killing, right? So that is the idea of this company, right? So let's you can read that in your own time. So this is producing new technologies to bring food production to consumers, increasing efficiencies in the food chain, right? So that means when you don't have a lot of animals, you don't produce a lot of animals, that means you reduce greenhouse gas emissions as well, right? So you have to have some animals to get sales, but you get sales and then culture the meat, right? Culture the meat rather than growing an animal. Then the next one is using new technologies to bring food production to consumers is applying 3D printing to food technology, the 3D printing technology to print food. You have seen 3D printing. We can print various items. Even a toy can be printed. When you put the real material, the toy will be printed, right? So I think you have seen this. But this can be applied into food production, right? So for example, you can go into a shop and ask a cookie to be printed, right? Or ask a bun to be printed, and you will get the printed bun. And you can consume that bun, right? So 3D printing, which is becoming important in manufacturing industry, is now being applied in food production. 3D printing, also known as additive manufacturing, it's a process whereby layers of materials are formed to create objects. And in this case, familiar dishes, right? So you can say that, okay, I want this cake in this manner, and they can print it, right? So Netherlands Organization for Applied Scientific Research has developed a printing method for microalgae, a natural source of protein, carbohydrates, and pigments and antioxidants, and is turning those ingredients into edible foods like carrots. So what are they doing? Is printing carrots, right? So imagine, rather than growing carrots, you print a carrot and consume the carrot. So you can, I have this in the LMS, so you can watch this video. I'm not showing it because it's a discussion. So you can watch that video if you are interested, looking to see how 3D printing is happening. And you can even search on the internet and look at areas where 3D printing of food is happening. Then the third one is incorporating cross-industry technologies and applications, right? Cross-industry technologies and applications. And we talk about Internet of Things. And in the previous video that I have showed, in the vertical farming, in the aero farms, I don't know whether you have listened to that carefully. The video said they are using Internet of Things inside their vertical farms as well. So what is this Internet of Things? It is digital transformation. Sorry, Internet of Things is, you can have, for example, if you want to, let's take a simplest form. Example, in a simplest form, you have you can have a tractor, and some of the things will be attached, some sensors will be attached to that tractor, and when the tractor is moving along, for example, you can say that along in the land, in the agricultural land, it can capture various information in the soil, in the environment, in the rain, in the water, vapor, or whatever. Then you can actually use that information to supply nutrients at the best level possible without wasting fertilizer, chemicals, and all that, right? So therefore, 3D printing, Internet of Things is something like that. So digital transformation is disrupting the agricultural world. IoT technologies allow creations of structured and unstructured data to provide insights into food production, right? So if you listen to Aero Farms again, the video that I have shown, they showed that some sensors were located in various places in the cultivation area, and these sensors pick up the nutrient deficiencies and all that. It goes into a computer, and Dell technology is used in that computer, and then they use those information in order to supply nutrients into the plants, right? So that is Internet of Things. Then the next thing that you can do is to incorporate cross-industry technologies. That is, these technologies are used in other industries, and what we say is can be used in the agricultural production. So by 2050, the UN predicts that the two-thirds of the world population will live in urban areas. And so we also see that in our country, most people are moving into urban areas, and which will reduce rural workforce. That is why the agricultural labor has come down. In the previous slide that I have shown the worldwide agricultural labor, how they have decreased over time in all countries. New technologies therefore will be needed to ease the workload of farmers, because when you have less farmers, they have a lot of work to do in their farms. So therefore, operations will be done remotely, processes will be automated, risks will be identified, and issues will be solved. In the future, farmer skills will increasingly be a mix of technology and biology skills rather than pure agriculture, right? So if you go through and see, I don't know whether you are interested in looking at the current developments in the world, and it is said that quantum computers are coming, and with that, the way that we do things will change, right? Change altogether, and there are around 4 quantum computers are available in the world at the moment. Google has one, and then some other companies has these computers, and these will change how things work, right? So it will affect medicine and agriculture specifically, right? So that is, you have to have the development of prospects in the future. Then drone technology is another cross-industry technology, but it's already being used, right? It's already being used, and most of the companies in Sri Lanka even use drone technology in terms of soil and field analysis, sometimes planting, sometimes spraying chemicals, sometimes to monitor crops whether they are healthy or not, and all this, sometimes even to irrigate you use drone technology, right? So therefore, that is, drones have come up with other industries, but it can be specifically used in agricultural production. So this is what Agricultural 4.0 is telling us. It tells us to incorporate cross-industry technologies into agricultural production. And I think this one is blockchain and securing the agricultural value chain. Now, we know that agricultural products starts from farm. It moves through various entities. For example, this can be a middleman, this can be a retailer, this can be a consumer. So there will be transport happening in between, and it goes through various entities until it goes to the final consumer, right? So information is a key factor information is a key factor in managing this supply chain, right? In managing this supply chain. So blockchain technology is a method of managing information. So blockchain, the distributed ledger technology behind Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. I think you have heard about Bitcoin. It's illegal in Sri Lanka, but it's coming up in the world. Cryptocurrencies allows for highly secure digital transactions and record keeping, right? So this technique, right, it is used for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but this technique can be used in agriculture sector, right? So let's see that video as well. I think it's a small video, so therefore we will look at that, how blockchain is used in agriculture, supply chain management in agriculture, right? Sorry, wrong one. So this is a company called Agri Digital. So you can think of this, right? So you have the capacity as young people to do this kind of, start this kind of business. There's the video.
AgriDigital is the world's first cloud-hosted, multi-participatory supply chain platform. By that we mean that all participants across the agri supply chain, be they farmers, buyers, or even consumers, can all operate and interact on one platform for their transaction of their commodities. Myself and my other two co-founders, we've come together really to be unified around solving three problems that have plagued the industry globally for a long time. The problems of payment security for farmers and sellers through the supply chain, but also focused on helping buyers access just-in-time and flexible forms of supply chain finance so they can purchase commodities. And thirdly, I guess we're really focused on consumers like you and I so that we have food transparency. We're one of the world's first companies to use blockchain in agriculture, and we're looking at those unique properties of blockchain technology, such as immutability of data, the record keeping, the ability to execute smart contracts. We can ensure that there is payment security for all farmers, and that's really what motivates us. I guess at heart we're farmers, and that's what we're here for.
Right, so that is about blockchain. I don't know whether you have understood the importance of that. Now, for example, let me tell you the importance of managing information in the food chain the way you understand. The first and foremost is, if you eat something today, you buy something from a vegetable vendor and you get sick because of that, right? You get a carrot and eat carrots out of a vegetable vendor, and you eat that carrot and you get sick, seriously sick, right? Because of some chemical that is applied to that carrot. Now, chemical or whatever thing that has happened to that carrot. Now, how do you find that where the problem is, right? How do you find where the problem is? Now, let's say carrot is produced in New Delhi, and it comes, give it there when farmers produce it, someone collects carrot and someone bring it to the New Delhi market, then someone transport it to Colombo, then someone stores that in some place, then someone buys that in from that place, then again transported to various places. So therefore, it's the supply chain, right? It's the supply chain. So in the supply chain, something can happen because this is food, right? Something can happen to this. So how do you find where this problem happened? So that is why you need information, right? Information, and also for payment of money. So for that is why that problem is what this company has identified, and blockchain is a way of processing information or transferring information in cryptocurrencies in a secure way. So that is used in agriculture by that AgriDigital company, right? So that is the idea of blockchain using blockchain technology in agriculture. Then again, another cross-industry technology that can be incorporated in agriculture is nanotechnology and precision agriculture. You already have heard about precision agriculture. You already have heard about nanotechnology. But these are not actually from agriculture, but these precision techniques and nanotechnology has been applied in the agriculture. Now we call that precision agriculture, right? So the green revolution of the 20th century has driven by blind use of pesticides, right? So as I said before, green revolution, you produce a lot of hybrid varieties, and for that you applied a lot of pesticides and chemical fertilizers. And you have seen the trend in the previous graphs that I have shown. You have seen the trends of how nitrogen have increased, how phosphorus have increased. I said potassium has increased by 73% from 2000 to 2020. Right? So that is the blind use of pesticides and chemical fertilizers, resulting in a loss of soil biodiversity. And I have shown you again another graph telling you that 25% of farmland is infertile, right? Infertile. Why? Because you have added a lot of fertilizers. So this has resulted in loss of soil biodiversity and rise in resistance against pathogens and pests. The new revolution will be precision agriculture driven by nanotechnology. This revolution will see nanoparticles delivered to plants and advanced biosensors for precision farming. Now, we have seen nano fertilizer in action during the fertilizer ban in the country, but that can be harnessed, right? So that is the way forward, not the fertilizer ban, but using nanoparticles. So nanocapsulated conventional fertilizers, pesticides and herbicides will release of nutrients and agrochemicals in a slow and sustained manner, resulting in a precise dosage to the plants. Rather than adding a lot of fertilizers, these nano-coated fertilizers, when you apply them into plants, it will be released bit by bit. It's like the medicine that you take in. Sometimes there are slow release medicine that you drink. Right? Slow release medicine means it doesn't, when you take that medicine, that pill, you don't get it immediately. It's bit by bit, it's released throughout the day. If you know any diabetes person, you know that there are metformin that is slow release, right? SR, it's called SR. So likewise, we have nano encapsulated fertilizers which can release fertilizers bit by bit for the plants to without wasting, without sending it to the environment. Then the next cross-industry technology is food sharing and crowd farming, right? Now the word crowd, now crowdsourcing, crowd farming is now even in the internet. If you want money, right? If you want money to start a business, crowdsourcing is a way forward, right? So in the internet, there are search this word. If you are interested, search this word, crowdsourcing. If you don't have money, you can ask potential donors to give you money, right? That is called crowdsourcing. You get small amount of money from large number of people. So there are websites or web pages that are specifically for this activity, right? So that can be used in agriculture as well. The sharing economy and crowdsourcing also have a place in preventing food waste. For example, food sharing, Olio, founded by social entrepreneurs, has built an app connecting people with their neighbors and local shops so that surplus food can be shared rather than be discarded. For example, I said 33% to 50% of food that is produced, 50% of food, that is half of food that is produced, goes into waste without eating. So these social entrepreneurs have built an app to share food among them, right? So in your free time, you can watch that video as well. Then the next one is crowd farming, like crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing is as I said, is a way that you can raise money for your business from people on the internet. And crowd farming is that same concept is applied into farming. So this person, I can't read this name, has created a system in which the person has ownership over the trees and land that the farmer cultivates. In this way, the fruit of those trees goes to their owners, creating a direct link between production and consumption and avoiding overproduction and waste along the value chain. So they have created example. Let's see what that is, so that you will understand what it is. Right, so there is no video, so you can actually go into this where crowd farming is. You can adopt a tree, and for example, I said, if you want money for your business, you tell about the business for the people in the internet, and then they will give money. Right? Each person will give some small amount of money, and you can raise money. Likewise, this case, what is happening is, you say that, okay, I'm going to cultivate this land, and someone can adopt a tree, like adopting a child, right? So adopt a tree, and this person, one person will adopt one tree, and the other person will adopt another tree, and you can grow, let's say, 1 hectare of land, right? Because of this one. So then you send that the fruit to those people somehow, right? So that is what crowd farming is all about, right? So that is the way that crowdsourcing has already been there in the world, but now this technology is applied into farming, right? So you can go and see that. So this is how agriculture 4 works, right? So in summary, what we have seen today is, we have a lot of population growing, we have climate change happening, natural resources are degrading, food is going into waste. Because of that, there will be a lot of poverty, there will be a lot of people in hunger, there will be a lot of people with nutrient deficiencies. To overcome this problem, you can use these, the agriculture industry will be shaped in this manner, right? One is, the agriculture industry will start producing differently using new techniques. Also, the agriculture industry will use new technologies and bring food production to consumers, in increasing efficiencies in the food chain. Food chain means the supply chain. Thirdly, the agricultural industry in the future will incorporate cross-industry technologies and applications to increase production efficiency and reduce waste in the agricultural production, right? So that is about agriculture 4.0. So that is the future trend of agriculture. So with that, we will stop for today. And in the next class, in the next week, we will talk about the trends in Sri Lankan situation, right? Trends in Sri Lankan situation. This is the world situation that we have talked about. So before we close, do you have any questions that you want to ask? Or if not, we can close. Right. So if not, I will finish the lecture today, and we will discuss the how Sri Lankan agriculture have shaped over the past 20 years in the next lecture. So thank you very much.